So the first season's used explanations/sexplanations to give us all the information we needed because there's so much of it. But in the new seasons, they've already got all of that backlog of information. They assume you've seen all the previous seasons, and so they don't need that as much. Therefore, not only has the writing and the characters and the plot changed, but many of the techniques of how they give us information, how they run with the characters, and how they interact has also changed. So let's look at the scene where Dany confronts Varys about his previous loyalties and his history as an example of how new seasons have evolved, and whether that's actually better or worse than old Thrones.
On a night like this, you came into the world.
I remember that storm. All the dogs in King's Landing howled through the night.
I wish I could remember it.
I always thought this would be a homecoming. Doesn't feel like home.
We won't stay on Dragonstone for long.
Good.
So right off the bat, they're jumping straight into Dany's history. They refer to how she was born in a very heavy storm on Dragonstone, where her mother died during that childbirth. That storm actually prevented Stannis from moving quickly onto Dragonstone, and that's how she managed to escape across to Essos. That's why her titles start with Daenerys Stormborn, of House Targaryen, first to be named Queen of the Air. But for this type of explanation, they don't just lean into the camera or whisper in Ned's ear saying, Daenerys was born on Dragonstone during a storm. But rather, they kind of bring it up quite casually in conversation because of the weather's around them and it fits in really nicely. So the way the writers actually crafted that in was actually really good. And that's actually something I've seen over and over again, where the writing of just natural conversation between characters can sometimes be actually really good, better than some of the stuff we ever get in the early seasons. But that doesn't stop them from falling into many pitfalls around the plot and motivations of characters that really suck.
If Viserys had 3 dragons and an army at his back, he'd have invaded King's Landing already.
Conquering Westeros would be easy for you. But you're not here to be Queen of the Ashes.
No.
We can take the 7 kingdoms without turning it into a slaughterhouse. With the Tyrell army and the Dornish on our side, we have powerful allies in the south.
So I may disagree with Dany's strategy of her not attacking straight away, but that's not what irks me. It's the misinformation in the scene that irks me. Tyrion says we have powerful allies in the south, but what he should really be saying is they have the only intact armies in all of Westeros. The Dornish and Tyrell armies are virtually untouched by all war. They have all the wealth and food of the Tyrells and the Reach, they have the armies and support of the Dornish. In contrast to that, all of Cersei's armies have been through war and absolutely dwindled. The Lannisters have been through years of war, the Riverlands has been teared to bits, the Stormlands has been fighting with the Lannisters and been dwindled down, the Eyrie is not with them, the North is in civil conflict and can't help them, and the Greyjoy army should be depleted hugely as well from their war with the North. So Dany has already convinced all of the important lords on her side, apart from maybe the Eyrie. So there's no political game to be played here. There's no acting like a good person to win over lords because she's already got everything she needs to win. She needs to stroll up to the gates of King's Landing and it will pretty much surrender or they'll take it, and then everyone else will fall into line because they don't have the forces, the men, or the will to face her. She wouldn't even need the Dothraki on Cellar, just her dragons, Dorne, and Tyrells. Maybe even just the Tyrells. So all of this doesn't really make sense unless she doesn't have the information to know the state of Westeros. Except she has Varys right there.
I never properly thanked you for that.
They joined our side, my queen, because they believe in you.
You served my father, didn't you, Lord Varys?
I did.
And then you served the man who overthrew him.
I had a choice, Your Grace. Serve Robert Baratheon or face the headman's axe.
But you didn't serve him long. You turned against him.
Robert was an improvement on your father, to be sure. There have been few rulers in history as cruel as the Mad King. Robert was neither mad nor cruel. He simply had no interest in being king.
So there's a few things I've noticed here. One is the plot is getting busy and quick. Everything is getting pushed into the same scene. We get way more group back and forwards where there's a whole set of people around a table and they're all kind of bouncing off each other rather than just one-on-ones like we got in the first few seasons. We see this in the North scene gatherings, we see this here around this table, we see this in King's Landing, we see this everywhere. They just don't have the time to dedicate too many scenes to one-on-one characters unless it's really important like Theon and Jon. This means a lot of conversations that should have happened at different places don't happen. Like they had a months-long journey where Varys and her were in the same boat, and none of this was discussed or brought up. And this is something that we really did need to address, because she banishes her greatest friend and ally, Jorah Mormont, because he sent letters to Varys about what she's doing. But Varys was the one that sent the assassins. Her entire childhood and life, she had always been afraid of him, sending his assassins after her and her brother. Someone whose shadow and mere mention of the name has dreaded you your entire life is very hard to forgive. So this could be an indication of her character growth and her needs to try and have allies and forgive people if she wants to rule Westeros. All this could be influence from Tyrion, so I'll give this one a little bit of leeway.
So you and your friends traded me like a prize horse to the Dothraki?
Which you turned to your advantage.
Who gave the order to kill me?
King Robert.
Who hired the assassins? Who sent word to Essos to murder Daenerys Targaryen?
Your Grace, I did what had to be done
To keep yourself alive.
Lord Varys has proven himself a loyal servant.
Proven himself loyal, quite the opposite. If he dislikes one monarch, he conspires to crown the next one. What kind of a servant is that?
The kind the realm needs. Incompetence should not be rewarded with blind loyalty. As long as I have my eyes, I'll use them.
So the show still has good actors and really good performances. They convey information less directly, but that's more of a style change than it is any huge criticism or benefit. In these little dialogues and monologues, they slip in so much information and backstory and motivational thinking. It's actually really good. It's why Game of Thrones is still the greatest show on television right now. Many of the people who review Game of Thrones or have loved Game of Thrones for such a long time get really, really bogged down in some of the really big mistakes that they made in the later seasons. Mistakes probably made because they don't have the book series anymore. Mistakes because they're running on their own and they've forced themselves into a really small time scale because they only wanted 8 seasons. And this leads to some big problems sometimes and things that get overlooked. In the comments of our last video, Joe Ringo 118 said that the fact that no one, not even Tyrion, ever asked Dany once, so where's the Dothraki to go after the war? Are they going to be farmers or what? Which is a really important question to ask that needs to be covered. Like, she wants to rule Westeros, but is she going to have the Dothraki stay in Westeros? Do they have the land, the food, the supplies? Have they just abandoned all the grasslands and all the people back there? Are they going to send them back there afterwards? They have to come across this horrible poison sea, super far away for their queen, kill a whole bunch of people, die in war, and then just trot back to where they were before? Is that what they signed up for? The thing is that George R. R. Martin puts so much work into making everything connect well. He grows his stories like a seed. He plants an idea and sees where it would sprout naturally, and then he trims his hedges or plants the seed again if it doesn't work. This means that everything connects well, every cause has a proper effect, and this leads to a really coherent universe that feels real. And that seems to be something the show is missing out on more and more. But it doesn't mean the series isn't fantastic.
I wasn't born into a great house. I came from nothing. I was sold as a slave and carved up as an offering. When I was a child, I lived in alleys, gutters, abandoned houses. You wish to know where my true loyalties lie? Not with any king or queen, but with the people. The people who suffer under despots and prosper under just rule. The people whose hearts you aim to win. If you demand blind allegiance, I respect your wishes. Grey Worm can behead me, or your dragons can devour me. But if you let me live, I will serve you well. I will dedicate myself to seeing you on the Iron Throne because I choose you. Because I know the people have no better chance than you.
Swear this to me, Varys. If you ever think I'm failing the people, you won't conspire behind my back. You'll look me in the eye as you have done today, and you'll tell me how I'm failing them.
I swear it, my queen.
And I swear this. If you ever betray me, I'll burn you alive.
So I've only covered a small bit of information about the Goliath amount of changes they've done between Season 1 and Season 7. So I want to throw it back to you guys in the comment section below and maybe in a live stream later on. What do you guys think the biggest and most important changes are between the old seasons and the new seasons? What changes you thought were really good, what changes you thought ruined Game of Thrones, and everything in between. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the comment section.